Welcome back. You're watching The Conversation Chamber, brought to you by the Bermuda Chamber of Commerce.
So that was a great conversation just now about tourism. We've got to talk about transportation.
Yep, let's hit it. So one of the things that we've seen with taxis over the last 10 years is there's 600 permits that are allowed in Bermuda, of which the taxis right now for 2022, where they were registered, are down to 523. Meanwhile, buses, limos, minibuses, that's actually almost doubled, actually just over doubled from 178 to 285. So that's the landscape, is that we've seen shrinking taxi usage, increase in minibuses and limos.
And then we also have buses and we also have ferries. So let's talk about the impact of transportation. So people get off the plane, they come out at the airport and, oh my God, no taxis. People get off the cruise ship, they come out, oh my gosh, do I have enough transportation to get where I need to go? Me and my ace girl, we go out, we're gonna have dinner, we're down in St. George's, we're up in Somerset. Can I get home? Can I get a taxi to come pick me up and take me home? Or if me and the boys go out, we had one too many, two too many, three too many, it was a hard day. Can we get home, or are we drinking and driving? Do we have enough transportation in Bermuda as a system so that this makes sense? Because people complain about transportation. Locals are complaining about it. Tourists are complaining about it. Business people are complaining about it. I'm not so sure that our system as a system right now is working as good as it can. What can we do? What should we be thinking about when it comes to transport?
I think we've got a lot of questions to answer there, and there's some lessons to be learned. If we look at the and Uber's often cited as an example of a bit of a success, right? But Uber didn't change how long it took to transfer to get a vehicle. It didn't change how long it took for that vehicle to get you from point A to point B. What it did was manage your expectations. And I think there's opportunities around all of those systems with through information technology, through apps, through all sorts of things, to be able to better manage people's expectations, to be able to provide better information, and then for the system to both become more reliable and for it to feel more reliable. We have a bus system that if it gave the impression of being more reliable, if people were able to get where they needed to go, when they needed to go, and know that they were going to get there, you would find ridership and usage of that system would go up. I think cheaper transportation, more reliable transportation, is also a huge economic enabler. It can drastically decrease the cost of living for the average family if they're able to use public transportation on a more consistent, more reliable basis.
So with the buses, recent information says that we have been able to increase the bus fleet. Some of them are a little bit smaller. Lots of conversation whether they're too small or too big, for sure. But if we can go ahead and cause the bus service to be as reliable as possible, link that up with maybe how the ferries run so that we can actually have a system that works a little bit better and bigger, totally. Some conversation around the schedule. What is the schedule? How useful is the schedule to St. David's or even to Dockyard in some regards, right? What happens when school's in and you try to get on the bus? Those things we probably need to figure out. Uber. Interesting, because, the gig economy, the gypsy cab, come on now. It's for real. It happens. We don't really talk about it. It's a little bit impolite, but exactly what are we doing? They're there for a reason. They must provide some sort of opportunity. They should either be pushed forward and be made part of our system or not, but we need to figure out how do we measure satisfaction with our transportation system, because that should be a key indicator. The conversation doesn't make a difference if we're talking about what we think and what we feel. There's got to be some measure of we are doing better, we're satisfied, we're happy with the taxi service. It takes us this long to get one, and we can get one and get to where we need to go. There is this, or used to be at a time when I think about my friends that got taxis, a lot of times it was part of my retirement package. I could slow down a little bit, I could hang out with my boys and my girls, and the taxi kind of was a thing that kind of kept me busy for when I wanted to keep busy. But now the taxi has a real need. It's a service. It's not just a retirement. It's not just a different kind of an option. It's not just an asset. We need to have wheels turning so people can get where they need to go. So let's now skip on to housing. Housing is a big one.
Yep. So I think, Marika, I'm going to just walk through a couple of the key issues that we see right off the bat. We're going to jump into some of the trends that we've seen, which is housing. There's been a slowdown of what units are actually being built right now.
Yeah.
So we've seen more recently, especially over the past 10 years now, that the mixture of units being built has shifted dramatically to one bedroom and studio units. The heyday of the 2000 to 2010.
Yeah.
That period where it was predominantly like 2-3 bedroom units being built. That was the condo booms, everything like that. We haven't seen that happen recently now. So it's shifted down. So majority of the units being built right now are 1 bedroom and studios. Coupled with that, we've seen a significant spike of international business activity over the last couple of years now,
Yep.
where the international business sector has actually grown by almost 1,000 jobs in a 4-year period. And that equates to about 440 new non-Bermudian jobs that have been created, and they have to live somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's a significant draw on demand that's kind of been under the radar, that has been clawing up a lot of the demand, along with a significant number of new Bermudian jobs. And obviously, they might be progressing up the property ladder on that too.
So that's a great thing, because if you own a house, you're able to rent that place out, and you're able to get it rented out on a regular basis and probably at a little bit higher rent rate, right?
Yeah.
So you're making a little extra money in your pocket. But if you're a local person, or I guess maybe a person who's coming to Bermuda to try and find a place, things are a little bit tight. And it's interesting when you say that it's more 1 to 2 bedroom or studio to 1 bedrooms that are being built right now versus 2 to 3, because I don't know, people out there are saying they can't find anything anywhere.
And I'd also say, like, we look back in 2000, we said that we had a housing issue. 2008, we had a housing issue. 2023, we have a housing issue. So it's an issue that we can't seem to overcome easily.
What's the issue?
Well, it's supply demand. And it's in the 2000s, we were able to build our way out of it. So in 2000, we were able to build our way through it.
Yep.
But now we're stuck where we aren't building that same level of units out there, and we're not able to actually drive that forward.
So Dennis, why do you think we're not building as much?
Well, I think if we look back to that, slide that identifies some of the issues around housing, it starts to tell the story where it's not a single. There's no sort of single smoking gun or no single red flag that is driving a problem. There's an accumulation of multiple factors, and the limited new builds, the cost of construction, all of that, and the increase in land pricing. So, and even in the last little while, the increase in cost of capital means that you're not making big money off of building to rent out or building to put on the market. You're not making the profit's not there to be able to facilitate it. So you're seeing less people doing it.
But let's get into this a little bit. So what does rent control mean? Let me talk about missing housing.
Rent control, you've got sort of a couple factors there. So lower end housing that's under the ARV limit, that is where the rent is regulated. At some point, if the regulated rent is lower than the problems that are created for the costs of maintaining that property, then you might be better off not renting it and taking it off the market.
So if somebody has a problem tenant and they don't pay, then you're trying to tell me that it's easier for me to not actually have a tenant in my space than to actually have somebody in the rent control space.
That's some of the feedback that we've got.
Yeah, that's tough. So the Landlord-Tenant Act, what about that one?
That's a similar type of problem. There are clauses within the act that are heavily weighted towards the tenant, and again, we've seen landlords, and we've gotten feedback that there are landlords that are taking units out of the market because it's just not worth it to rent them out.
I heard somebody say, between these two, rent control and Landlord-Tenant Act, I heard somebody say that they had somebody in their space that didn't pay their rent. They kept trying to collect rent 3-4 months. They finally took the person to court, Dennis. And then what actually happened was the judge said, hey, tenant, how much time do you need to get yourself sorted out? The person says, I'll do my best. I think I have myself sorted in 3 months. 3 months pass, they still haven't got any rent. And now this person is suffering because they actually can't afford to pay their mortgage. It's that's a tough spot to be in. So economic investment certificate, what does that mean real quick?
So the economic investment certificate, the British Overseas Territories, the digital nomads are all sort of factors that have increased the demand. And again, that has taken inventory off the market and again creates a shortage.
Yeah, so we have more people coming to Bermuda, more people moving into spaces, and that actually was actually a good thing because it means the economy is turning over. But it does mean that because we aren't building as many houses anymore, and also because some people are just not renting their spaces, some things are still stuck in probate, that we are just not having access to the amount of houses that were once there. This is a tough situation, especially because the price to build isn't what it used to be. So we've got to figure some stuff out. I don't know if that means that we have to go a little taller than we used to go before, a little wider than we used to go before. People are going to have to start sharing. I don't know what the answer is. This is a difficult one.
Conversation Chamber will be back after these messages.